and welcome back to San Antonio, Texas, the Bunker Bob Show, and it is great to be back with you. A lot has gone on today in the committee meetings, and we want to. I'm just checking my feed. Yeah, I am live. So this has been an interesting day for a lot of reasons because several different committees met today, and they were really a lot to talk about, especially as it relates to some of the plank issues. And I want to highlight a couple of things, and I have some guests here as well. We're going to be talking about school choice in just a minute. Before I get to that, so in state affairs, I basically went to state affairs and went to the business and commerce. The business and commerce committee is where basically I was testifying on the issue of the whole mud issue, the right of citizens surrounding a proposed water district, and explained to the committee, and many of them were very aware of what MUDs are and how they're from Harris County, which is where 93% of MUDs exist. And those Harris County committee members didn't have anything good to say about MUDs. And so ultimately what we're trying to do is put something into the platform that really restricts the right of these developers to create MUDs by forcing when they create a water district. And this is how it reads. In addition to those who have lived out inside the proposed water district for the statutory required minimum 6 months prior to an election to approve, the Texas legislature should amend the standards for approval of a water district, which is the precursor to a municipal utility district, or MUD, to include any registered voter who has resided on a property within 1,000 feet from the proposed property line for at least the same amount of time. So that was one of the issues that is now in Business and Commerce. I went to the State Affairs Committee, which is where our county party, we sent it to State Affairs. We're the only, it's something I created, so we're the only one that has this, and so I recommended to State Affairs that they move it over to Business and Commerce. That's kind of the getting into the weeds of things. But went to education today. That was a very important committee, obviously. One of the things that I was fighting against was the wording that they had included in the document where they wanted to basically require that the teachers, that instruction on the Bible be taught. And my issue is not as a Christian. I'm glad for the Bible to be presented. I'm glad for kids to read the Bible. I just don't think that a teacher should be guiding or instructing kids on what that Bible means. Because as a Christian, I believe the Holy Spirit speaks to those who read His Word, and so the Holy Spirit will guide someone to understand His Word, and so that's it's unnecessary to have a teacher instruct a kid on what it says, and there's a lot more problems where that comes in. But also the big issue, and this is true for every year, it's school choice. And there are those who are very passionate, and it is a very passionate dividing line between those who believe in school choice and those who don't. And I've got some several people here who y'all can come over and who really are they're not advocates of school choice. So come on in. Hold on.
We believe in choice. We just don't believe in the voucher ESSA program.
Okay, that's an important distinction. Tell me your name.
My name is Mary Lowe, and I'm in Senate District 12, and we have an organization where we advocate for parents and children and teachers at the local level, families engaged for effective education, and we work the legislative session and the State Board of Education meetings as far as protecting children and parents' rights.
Okay, great. So, and then we have Lynn Davenport, and you are come on up a little bit, and
yes. I work with Mary Lowe with Families Engaged. I want to say that most of the legislation conflates parental rights with choice, and that they're they're two different things. Our rights come from God, not the government. So when we put that into legislation or language in the planks, that's conflating something. What we're really talking about, because we have rights. We can choose wherever we want to send our kids. If I want to do homeschool, private school, public school, charter school, I have that choice. Money is a different thing. So really what we're talking about is money. And so we've studied, so Tracy.
Okay,
yeah,
so
we studied the bill.
Tracy Haynes.
Tracy Haynes.
Okay.
Yes.
And?
I'm from, yeah. She's, okay. I'm from Senate District 18.
And you're
I'm 16.
16. Oh, okay. My old.
And I'm Senate District 7. I'm Mary Ann Jackson. I'm from Harris County.
You know, I grew up in Houston. I went to Lee High School. Life is too short to live in Houston. I'm just going to tell you.
Yeah, I agree.
Now, with the heat. I'm kidding, of course, but no, I'm so glad to have you here. So, okay,
Yes.
Please continue.
Well, okay, so they conflate it with the dollars, and the problem is when the money follows the child, so do the strings. And the governor has explicitly said there will be accountability measures, and that comes in the form of strings such as the testing. So they will do the STAR test, which is the state test for the public school kids.
No, wait a minute. The legislation doesn't say that.
Okay, well then let's go to the legislation we've seen thus far. House Bill 1, that was $34 billion. Senate Bill 1 was $500 million. So forget the money, but it grows the government and it grows the spending. The fiscal notes is how you have to look at these bills. If you want the truth, you have to look at the fiscal notes. So we're supposed to be, as our party, I'm a fiscal conservative. I don't want to grow government. I want to shrink it. And no one listens to the work that we do. Well, they listen to us, but they ignore it because they want to push school choice. What we're saying is we have to fix our public schools. We have to focus on the money, follow the money in the public schools, not money following the child. We need to do a full audit of the Texas Education Agency. It's a conduit for corruption. That's where the money is going.
I thought you were advocating to get rid of the TEA.
I did. I said,
Good.
it's the TEA.
Also advocating to fire Mike Morath. He's been. So I would like to go back to one of the points you said that it doesn't say that there will be strings. Actually, this particular convention, we ended the last.
What I said was it doesn't say that they're going to have to take that test.
Okay. The governor, in his interview prior to this 88th session, did say that it would be the STAR test or the MAPS test, but the language is intentionally being changed from the resolution that was 101 on the education platform this last time.
What if I'm against that? What if the legislation didn't have those requirements?
Well, the only way that it could legally not have those requirements is if it's the person gets to keep their money. If you read the AG's opinion in his argument against Harris County's universal basic income, he said it was illegal for the government to pass money or redistribute money without the government attaching regulations to it and expectations and guidelines. And basically what they're asking for is universal school choice. So I think that the insight here is to see where the AG has already ruled about the redistribution of money, that it has to have definition to it, and you have to listen to the governor who said that there would be accountability.
Okay. So let's slow down there. So when it comes to the issue of accountability, as you're saying, and the strings that you're saying, the Attorney General is the one who says you have to have strings attached if you're going to give out vouchers. Is that what you're saying?
That was definitely his ruling about the redistribution of income in Houston in regards to universal basic income, and what the state is trying to do is universal school choice.
Let me go back. I'm an Aggie. All right, so you got to come down to my level, and then maybe I should talk to you. So I'm asking specifically. So on vouchers, he's saying that you have to have strings attached.
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, from the last convention to this convention, the messaging was to make sure that they removed the language from the plank that said no strings attached. And they just took a vote in the Education Committee to add no strings attached back to the language of 101, and it failed. And it failed because that committee has been stacked ahead of time with men who are working for lobbyist organizations that are, there's only one man on there that is not connected to the largest advocate for school choice.
Okay, but here's the question I have. So there's legislation that requires strings attached. Can't we create legislation that says you don't have to have strings attached? Yes.
Okay. So it's our tax dollars, right? So why would we want our tax dollars used in a way that we have no say-so? So that's,
but these are vouchers. These are for education.
that's how they pay for it, is with our money. So it's our tax dollars going towards the voucher. So
here's the biggest problem that I have with what y'all are saying at this point. So I'm a school choice advocate. Okay, just so you know. I mean, I'm a voucher guy. Okay, I'll put it that way. Jim Leininger here in San Antonio. Oh gosh, whoa, oh my gosh. Yeah, y'all got it. Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, tell me. No, tell me. No, it's fine because they can still hear us. But Jim Leininger here in San Antonio, any kid who wants to go to a private school, he'll pay for it. So that's a voucher. And so what is?
Start TPPF, is that the same one, Leininger?
Yeah, Jim Leininger, yeah.
Yeah, so that's who we battle often at the legislature is TPPF, the policy think tanks, because there's money in this.
Yeah, but Dr. Leininger, in his defense, is giving money away. I mean, he's giving it to kids here in San Antonio.
School choice industrial complex. I'm not saying he's making money on this. I'm just saying this is why for 20 years we've been talking about this rather than solving the problems in our public schools.
But how do you solve the problems in public school?
Have we ever tried?
Have we ever tried? Are you kidding? We try all the time. Come on.
No, we haven't.
Oh, please, come on.
Reject the federal. I said this earlier. You heard me say this. Reject federal intrusion. There's no constitutional justification for the federal Department of Education to have a role locally. Well, why aren't we saying that instead of everyone talking?
We are. It's been on our platform. It has been on our platform. Abolish the TEA.
Okay.
I'm going to hold.
Okay. We don't have to have a bill. My local school district is refusing to take any money from the federal government. So you can have your local schools start rejecting the federal funds. The biggest taker of the federal funds is the Texas Education Agency, who is run by an appointed individual. And he is the one who has taken us from 9% and exclude the COVID money to 30% federal funds. He is the one who is baking us and tying us into all of the things that we're not wanting in our school district. So we don't need legislation. We need somebody who understands and wants to work for the people.
The legislation. I was talking about legislation regarding strings attached, getting rid of that. I wasn't talking about it. But I think
the federal government.
The federal government get rid of the TEA.
Well, the TEA.
I'm sorry. The Department of Education. Department of Education is what I meant.
Let's define the strings. Here's what we do. We do not define the strings. So we have defined them. So we were talking accountability measures, which could be testing. So I just met with the diocese. The Catholic Diocese in Dallas. She came from Tennessee, where they are taking the state test if they take the school choice dollars. Now, you could write that into a bill that says, no, we could only do a norm reference test. But this is a slippery slope. Second, accounting. You have to report on where the money's going. This makes if you take the money, your private school is no longer private. It becomes public. Why would we look to the government? Okay, so you're fleeing the government schools. Why would you look to the government for government-regulated school choice? You wouldn't.
All right, well, I'm gonna ask you a question that you're gonna hate. You know how I know? Because you shouted about it in the committee. So yeah, because so it's not happening at Liberty University. I realize that's secondary education.
That's not apples to apples. So they said, so the argument was from Kerry Cheshire. He said, well, they're taking the Pell Grants, and there's no problem with that. Have they had a problem with that? That is higher ed. We're talking K-12. No, there is a huge difference because the TEKS.
The tuition's gone up. So my children went to a private Christian school in Tomball, and I've been watching them, following them. They went from first grade to 12th grade, and I've watched just within the last 2 years, it's jumped hundreds of dollars. We went there for 8 years, first to 8th grade for middle school and everything, and it might have went up every other year or 3 or 4 years, just $25 or $50.
Okay, so what I do for a living is I work with Christ-centered not-for-profit organizations, helping them raise large dollars from high-capacity individuals. A lot of schools, a lot of Christian schools. Most of the schools that don't increase their tuition are in debt, or they don't meet, their tuition does not cover all of their costs, which means they have to have a gala and they have to raise money in other ways. So, is it possible, because my daughter attends private school, has all her life, every year we get a $500 to $1,000 increase? Why? Because the schools that she attends is meeting all of the cost with the tuition dollars. So to say that this is happening because of government, that the increases. Yeah, go ahead.
I believe that all of this is intentional.
What's
going on in our public schools. It is broken on purpose. If you look over the last 20 years, the STAR test, teachers are sick of it, parents are sick of it. It's completely destroying our kids' self-esteem. It is driving teachers out of the classroom. They're leaving the profession. I have teachers in my family, they've left. If you look at take discipline in the classroom, it's gone. You know why? Because of restorative discipline. Okay, discipline's gone. This is all intentional to get us to this point where they want to come for all the children. They want to put the children under one arm of, well, actually, it's 4 lanes of government. This is another arm of government, school choices, and it's through the voucher and it's through the ESA.
So you got charters, you got public, you have vouchers if they pass, and then virtual is another one that they will pass. 4 lanes of taxpayer-funded education, that's coming. And that's Republican driven. And what she's talking about with the accountability system and STAR, that was George Bush, our former governor.
Oh, all right. Now, wait a minute. He was awful on education. He was, every child left behind is...
Tentacles in education everywhere. We run up against them all the time, and Margaret Spellings. So, yeah, the Bushes, they're still involved in education.
I think the real elephant in the room is the fact that no matter how you look at this, everything is written to only help 2 to 8% of the children that are in public school, and Texas educates 10% prior to all of the immigration in Texas, 10% of the nation's children. And we have failed for a decade already, and we're about to fail for another decade. We need a radical change, and the radical change must occur in the education system that is educating the majority of the children in Texas. I don't see anything that they have proposed. We spend all the energy arguing over voucher or no voucher, and nothing ever gets done about repealing a list of bad bills that put SEL in the schools, put sex ed in the school. I mean, the one thing that people get up in arms about is sex education. And it's, I mean, dirty books sell. So, I mean, it's funny. We can talk about sex and people show up. If we're talking about, data mining and your child's data being sold and the kids are being commoditized, people aren't as interested. But we start talking about sex and rape and gender, and everybody wants to get upset about that. But there's way more to what's happening in education, primarily that they cannot read and they cannot do math.
Okay,
There's even too many kids in the school that are not being educated.
Don't disagree with anything that you're saying, by the way. Tracy, I want to go back to something that you talked about. You said this is all done on purpose. By who and for what reason? I still don't understand the reasoning behind it.
We have globalists. We have Klaus Schwab and the World Economic Forum. We also have Abbott, who's been on video saying he's been asked, do you denounce Klaus Schwab and the World Economic Forum? And he refuses to do it. We have people...
Is it possible he doesn't know who he is?
I don't think so. He's on the website. If you go look on... Yeah, and if you look on the website, he's listed on the website.
So who is this Klaus von Schwab?
Klaus Schwab, look him up, Agenda 2030. Okay. The United Nations 17 Sustainable Goals. It's like a roadmap. People need to start digging into that. The social behavioral data mining that they're doing on our children all throughout Texas. They data mine our children. They survey them on their attitudes, beliefs, values, and habits, and they collect those that scoring, and they create a behavioral dashboard on every single child. And in my school district, the only way we found out is we did a Freedom of Information Act with a dad, and he found out that this was happening with his son. And they don't tell the parents. So this is a social credit score. system. This is developing like China. So
I would love for Lynn to tell about. I would love for Lynn to tell you also about the CCP's presence in our public schools, and then about a dad who asked to see his child's iPad and what happened with that, because the technology is really where the parent is being totally hoodwinked and cut out of everything that is happening to their child.
Okay. All right, Lynn, come on up a little bit.
So, Bob Hall, Senator Bob Hall, was the only.
It's my senator.
Okay, good. He was the only Republican legislator, to vote against House Bill 1605, which was a technology vendor bill to put the kids on devices. And that bill also had language in it that was the United Nations that defined it, open education resources. So let me just say that he talked about we needed, with the grid, he was saying that we needed to put more resources into technology. So my solution after listening to that is, let's take all the money that we're spending on K-12 technology and put that towards the grid. We could solve that, one. But we have, I'll go into the Highland Park thing. So the dad, he has a 5-year-old kindergartner. He asked the school if he could take the iPad. He said, no, I don't want just a school issued one. I want the one that my child sees, that he logs in with his QR code. So the children are logging in with a QR code using a badge. It's called Clever. So the Clever badge, the kid's logging because they're not old enough to type and they don't even know how to type their name. Okay. So he gets the iPad, takes it home, and he can see what his child is doing. He spends 40 minutes a day on a video game, and then the school, then they started shutting down his access to the apps when they realized he was Googling things like, he could look up anything he wanted to. He found all kinds of graphic images. The principal shows up from Highland Park ISD, shows up at his door to get that iPad. And he's like, well, what would they have done if I had not given it back? He offered to pay for it. They want that thing back because they do not want the parents to know what the kids are learning, how they're learning, who's profiting off that learning, how much time they're spending on devices. So we have a huge issue with technology.
And you're talking about Highland Park in Dallas. So I mean, we're talking about kind of if you're in Harris County, that's River Oaks, or that'd be Lamar, I guess, or I mean, this is a high-end school. This is where all the money is.
District.
Yeah, and just Jerry Jones' grandson went to Highland Park. All right.
Right. We're 1-to-1 on devices, one device to one student throughout the state of Texas. That was why we often say that the pandemic was the plandemic, because it allowed them to get hot spots and devices even into the lowest of income families so that they can track and control. We're moving to a very, very dangerous spot as far as, my grandfather used to say, big brother and big government and how dangerous they were. And I mean, I don't think this was even a thought of his. And I mean, that was 60 years ago.
Republican legislature, Republican dominated, Republican governors for the last 2 decades. So this is on us. We're the spenders. You can't get a bill signed without it being approved by the governor. Think about that. And we would argue that we're overbilled, too many bills. The bills have fiscal notes. They drive up our spending. We'll never have property tax relief if we keep spending this money on technology and wasteful bills this is us. This is us doing it. We can't blame the Democrats for this. They can't get anything through without us, right?
I think it's interesting.
Hold on.
Okay.
Well, you had said, how did she know that this was done on purpose? Yes. So we have.
Well, I asked what she meant by that.
Okay. So we just had us. There's a principal he's a retired principal who worked on his dissertation and he looked at all this research. And he was in a high-performing high school in Klein ISD, Klein High School. Yep. And so he retired to work on his PhD. And as he studied schools in Texas, he through his research, he figured out this was all done on purpose. That they kept raising the bar. The way the accountability system was designed was going to, that there was a certain percent that were always going to fail. And, the schools, and so then when you're looking at this, and you're realizing, because I was a former teacher, and you're sitting there looking and listening to all of this, and it's all making sense that, of course, I was always in poor performing schools. I was in the inner city Houston ISD. We have we started out failing the test, the first year.
You were at Lee?
No, I was at...
I'm kidding.
Lincoln. But anyway, So anyway, so we, have looked at people who have shown us they've written books. The famous lady from, her last name is Iserbit.
Yeah. Deliberate dumbing down of a nation or America. Yeah.
And so when you start looking into that and you start wondering, and I used to do training for the Region Service Center, you're going across the state, we're looking at all the schools. You don't think we know ways to fix this problem?
Okay, so all right, who am I talking to? Christians?
Yeah.
All followers of Christ. Okay, so... Oh my goodness, not Bible believing Christians. Oh my gosh. Okay, goodness gracious.
Testimony today, by the way, it was fabulous. One of the things that I just think is so shocking to me is that we have these Republicans who, for one whole, I'll say, cycle, leading up to the 88th and all through the 88th, they literally went on this bromance tour with this guy named Corey DeAngelis. And when you look at Corey DeAngelis, like, who is he as a person? First of all, at the point they were running around with him selling school choice, he has no children. He's been on the board or worked for UNESCO. I believe it was worked for UNESCO. And once we called him out for that, that disappeared off of UNESCO. And he's a Democrat and he's an atheist, and they're making him the poster child of fixing education.
Okay. All right, all right, so y'all are talking my language. So here's the problem. So have y'all read Metaxas' book, Letter to the American Church? Yes. Okay, have y'all seen Waiting for Superman?
Yes.
Okay, Waiting for Superman.
You have to look at who funded that.
Who? Waiting for Superman?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so you're not a charter school fan?
No, because listen, charter schools, that's taxation without representation. And that was pitched as it was going to level the playing field, use competition, lift all boats. Well, we've got how many years? Let's see, since 95, since charters were introduced, have they helped us in any way? No.
They haven't.
Now we're paying for two systems. Remember I said 4 lanes.
Okay.
We're paying 2 lanes.
In fairness, I haven't looked at those numbers, so you're probably right.
We have the numbers. Like, they do not outperform our crappy public schools. Sorry.
So, but this is really important because we would talked about being Christians, and you said so it doesn't. But do you realize that one of the largest charter schools in the state of Texas is Harmony, and it's a Gulen charter school, and we send money to Turkey. And our lieutenant governor gave it the thumbs up, and we have a Harmony school near me.
There's 82 in Texas.
Oh, okay, I thought it was 85. Okay,
85.
80.
Do I hear 90?
No, we don't hear 90. We want to say, but
it doesn't matter.
Right, there's a lot. And the commissioner has the authority to approve a Harmony school without going before the SBOE, because once a charter school is approved, their next application is approved as long as it doesn't change from the application that they've already had approved. So these big schools can just, as a matter of fact, there's one that is up to be approved for moving into Mary Ann's district. And in Hurst, I live near Hurst, not in Hurst, but near Hurst, there's a Harmony school, and they literally have a prayer room, and it faced east.
Well, it's okay. So I go back to Letter to the American Church. Bottom line, I mean, my daughter, I don't send her to. It was brought to me this way: would you send your child to a Muslim school? I said no. Would I send him to that school? Then why would you send him to a secular humanist school, public school? So that really had a profound impact on my wife and me, and we thought, well, that's right. So the question really is, first of all, the American church has basically become feckless, I would argue, and yeah, and so if we can't even transform the world in our own churches, it seems like you're spitting in the wind.
This is a church issue. It's a daddy issue. We've got the families are broken, so of course the schools are having to take. And in their defense, that's why they're taking all of this social emotional learning and saying, give me all these tools, which they're not good tools. No, but the daddies, where are the daddies? Right. Yeah, and the church, the weak, wimpy church, absolutely. No, you're right.
And, and I was just at our church on Sunday, and our pastor talked about, on front of his pulpit, it says, preach the word. word. And we're not getting that at churches. They're wanting to talk politics. They want to talk everything else, but open the Bible and start teaching the people what's written in that Bible. And that's a big problem. And my kids did go to a private Christian school, but now that private Christian school, and many of them in the Houston area, they've hired DEI coordinators. I mean, from a variety to...
Okay, I agree with you on that. So we moved our daughter from a Christian school because we didn't send her there so that she could learn about God. That's our job. We just didn't want to have to compete with the world. That's all we care about. Well, this school brought in the
accreditation is how they do it.
Well, they had all the teachers read White Fragility, and then they had anyway. We said enough of that. So she's at a Catholic school. I know that she's not going to. Okay, I'm not Catholic. I hope are any of you Catholic? Okay, I'm not Catholic. So we knew. Okay, I know exactly what she's going to be combating. She's not there for her spiritual growth. Clearly. Sorry if I offended anybody, but bottom line, that's not what she's getting at her Catholic school.
Sold out to the Common Core and the government a long time ago because
she's not using Common Core. That's the thing.
But I bet it's a philosophy of education. I bet it's related. But when we met with the diocese, one thing back on the cost. So the diocese lady, the director, she admitted that it did drive up the cost of private school in Tennessee because the vouchers. Sorry, I'm back to the vouchers. But yes, but on the curriculum thing, yeah. So this goes to what Tracy was saying. So all schools will be folded into this, and when she says it's an Agenda 2030, whatever you want to call it, Klaus's WEF. So all schools will be folded in. What's the best way to grab those kids who are not in the system? The ones in homeschool or private school, dangle the money. You see, and they're going to drive. The cost of living is going to be so high. People will be grabbing for that money. So it's an agenda. People don't see that it's a Trojan horse, but those of us who have been studying it for the last 10 years, we know, and the party's taking the bait.
Well, so again, I'm a no strings guy. So I'm for it as long as there's no strings. What you're saying is that you can't have no strings.
So then we're back to square one. So we keep doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. So I just met with somebody who was running for the state, the party chair, and I said, well, people say that, I don't want strings. No, nobody wants strings, but what we're saying is the reality is there's no way to do a school choice bill without strings unless you amend the Constitution. Do we want to do that?
Can I argue that there's no way to fix the Texas public schools?
Well, yes, you can argue that, and we would argue pull your kids out. But for those who are in the schools, do we not care about what they're learning, how they're learning, and where the money's going? We do. So why would we not focus on that? And we actually have the tools locally. Like we file grievances. We train people, parents, how to file grievances to fight the lawlessness with the law. We actually do have solutions and tools and laws and things on the books that are good. We don't need any more bills. If we could have a session, the governor would have no power. If we never presented a bill, then people wouldn't have to negotiate, because in order to get my bill passed, I got to agree to your bill, which goes against my morals and values. We don't need any more bills, no more bills. So have a session where we just don't have it, like an unsession. And then we focus on repealing bills. That does require a bill. So we have to repeal 1605. We have to repeal at the federal level every Student Succeeds Act. No Child Left Behind was the character traits, Senate Bill 123. These bills have all been implemented in our schools where they have to mandate the teaching of government character traits. That means the values that they're imparting on our kids are coming from the government, not academics. This is all social and emotional.
All right, so here's what I have not seen, and just to be honest, is I've not seen both sides sit down together and have a debate, a true debate where you are
right versus right or left versus right.
There's one in Dallas.
No, right versus right. No, I mean no.
Right versus right.
So I did. They're very few and they're very controlled. But I mean, two things. I was invited actually to debate Corey DeAngelis, and then I was he canceled, and then
No, I'm talking about debating Republicans. Republicans on the pro voucher side. Okay, it's happening today in Dallas.
And you know who they brought in? So they've got a lobbyist, Mandy Drogan, and then they brought in, instead of a Republican on Republicans, so where we can debate this in an open forum, they're bringing in a Democrat.
Okay, so we're not okay. Again, we need to have Republicans voting, debating Republicans.
Today, I asked Luke Macias. I said, can we sit down and talk about, I never hear you talk about fixing the schools. Can I have a conversation with you about fixing the schools? You have a podcast. You have a loud megaphone. I mean, he works for Scorecard. He supposedly is managing all the Wilkes and Dunn money, $29 million this election cycle alone. I mean, if we just invested $29 million and took the interest and set up scholarships, we could homeschool an enormous amount of children. And when it happens from the bottom like that, then you're teaching parents how to parent again.
So what did he say?
He wouldn't even have a conversation.
He walked away.
No, all they talk about is Democrat chairs. Well, the governor is appointing Democrats, so is the lieutenant governor, but we talk about, it's like...
Okay, so if I set something up, you guys would be willing to do it? Because I'm fascinated by this topic.
I was just like you when I first started hearing it, because my kids were young in 2000, 2003, and we were like I was all caught up into it. And then as years have gone along, and I watched it in the classroom, doing my stuff, and then you realize we have been played, and this is not. Killing Ed is another documentary, if you haven't seen it.
I have not seen it. Killing Ed.
Yes, and so... Yeah, and I just saw that like in 2016, thanks to Lynn, and they're mothering, they have kids, and they were sharing about what was going on in the public schools. My kids were in private schools, so I'm still trying to learn and figure out this, even though I worked in the public schools. So anyway, I was just like you at one time, and then, like I'm saying, I meet
dumb and ignorant.
Yeah, well, you meet people, and you start reading other. No, but I definitely understand you as a parent. I wouldn't want my children being teachers in these schools. No. They're terrible. But we have billions of dollars we've invested as taxpayers. Why are we going to let the left take all our beautiful band halls and football fields and all the all of that stuff, and we're just giving it away? We're just bowing down and jumping ship. But we know, I worked in inner city kids, they're not going anywhere. But to drive your kid, I used to have to drive totally different direction, get my kids to school, pick them up, pay for all sorts of stuff that you never would have to pay for the food, the transportation. I just don't think people have thought this through. If you get $2,000 or $10,000, it doesn't really matter. It's still... There's all sorts of logistical. They don't even have moms and dads.
Okay.
The schoolhouse is still on fire.
Yeah. Okay, so here's all right. So you're in Dallas. So I'm in Rockwall. Is there someone in Dallas, in the Dallas area, who you would say, hey, that'd be a good person to get to debate?
You mean to moderate?
No, I'll moderate. Oh. I'm saying I'll moderate because I do candidate forums a lot, and I do them where I interview the first person. You can have as much time to talk, and then I interview the other person, and then we edit it together to make it look like they're both in the same room. We could do that, or we could have you face to face.
Why don't you try Senator Creighton or Brad Buckley? We would love to challenge either one of them. They both were chairman of Senate Ed and chairman of House Ed, and they carried the bills. Okay. I don't imagine that Dan Patrick would sit down and do it, but we would debate with him, or even, I
want somebody. Okay, I don't want someone high up that's a name. I want somebody who's in the weeds and understands this and can talk your talk.
After the primaries, the runoffs are over, I'm pretty sure Luke said he would do it.
And Michael Quinn Sullivan was supposed to talk about this topic in Stephenville, and I was also there, and I got called and asked not to come because Quinn Sullivan was going to represent the view of the voucher, and I don't know what it happened internally, but I think that's someone they have been promoting this through Scorecard for a long time, and they like to call themselves the experts. But I think the people who are writing the bills, there's plenty of people, and there are more of us. There are many more of us, so we certainly can, say, here, pick
Bills or the special interests, if they want to debate us, I mean, you can. It's TPPF or Americans for Prosperity, the Koch-funded arm. We've got. I mean,
I don't want a lobbyist who's going to give us talking points. I would like to have somebody.
I mean, because on the ground, the grassroots people, when you knock on doors, they're not asking for this. This is.
Okay, I disagree with that. I mean, there's a lot of us. I'm grassroots.
You're confused. How I look at the parents when they start figuring out that they want to own every kind of schooling. They want those homeschool kids. They want our private schools. They want them all to be indoctrinated into their philosophy.
And I think the language that was used was very deceptive semantics to say
Used in what?
in publishing and marketing this concept to get people to respond to it in the proposals or the propositions that were put out. Freedom, empower,
choice,
And that's what they do. They tickle your ears.
But that's marketing. Okay, let's be honest. I mean, that's what you do.
Get our words like with shekels comes shekels, and we know that Vodi Bakum put that in his book. We know that you cannot send your kids and think they're not going to get indoctrinated. So what we have to do as a teacher, I was a first grade teacher. We could talk about God. When people keep saying God is out of the schools, God is sovereign. God is in control. God isn't out of the schools. God is letting everything happen that's happening right now. And what we have to do, there's Christian teachers in our schools. Their Bible. I know that. They're talking to the kids, and the only limitations we had was to be age appropriate. When a child asks you, you celebrate Easter or Christmas or something, you can talk to children about this. But as a 6-year-old, I'm going to talk to him like what I would talk to my child, a 6-year-old. But a high school kid, I can talk more to a high school kid and answer their questions. There was no laws that said we could not do this. So I'm just perplexed at all what we've come up with.
Okay, but
they have to make they have to demonize the teacher, because in order to get rid of the human teacher, we've got to bring in the digital teacher or the digital facilitator. Seriously, this is a huge agenda, and the technology is so pervasive. And that the teacher will basically be the person, a guide on the side, to help them do their QR code to log into their iPad or their device. That's where we're moving.
The other thing is when the governor says that 80% of the citizens wanted this, 80% of the number of people who voted for this proposition. And the proposition, it's kind of like, I love that Betancourt fights that it has to say this is a tax increase on a bond. They made that be a part of the language. Well, the language about the voucher really needs to say this is a tax increase. I mean, this is a government expansion, because it is.
Okay, so again, you haven't convinced me about that. I hear what you're saying, but
so we're talking 3%. When you look at that voted, he says 80%, we say 3%. Okay. If you really canvassed everybody and said, this is exactly what this is, do you want this? The majority of Texans are going to say no, and not just if they know. And I think that it's time that we stop being deceptive with what our government does in every aspect, and that we start being transparent, and it starts with the TEA. I mean, our TEA, I don't know if you saw the story, but with Houston ISD and Third Future, it seems like we have money that's flying over to Colorado to support a failed charter school there. Yes, and I believe this is true, but it's not the first. I mean, we are being fleeced. The Texans are being fleeced.
Yeah, we're subsidizing a failed charter in Colorado. Yeah.
Well, okay, so I go back to so your argument is I'm saying I think it's a fool's errand to think that you can fix Texas public schools. You're saying, well, you've got to try. And so my question is, what are your solutions?
So the first thing is to remove technology and
let's talk. That seems crazy to me. Because everything, look what you've got in your hand. You've got technology.
You learn to read, though.
I learned on a book. No, look, I still love the book. I love I love paper. I'm old-fashioned. My daughter reminds me of that.
That works. And I asked the legislators, it works. Remove the technology and pay the teachers well with the money saved on the technology. Books, paper, pencils, great teachers, train them and pay them.
But parents, okay, but you've got to change the mindset of parents, because parents think technology. Oh, no, I don't agree. Parents see technology as, okay, and why am I saying this? Because, again, I work with private Christian schools, and we're raising large dollars. We're trying to build buildings, and we ask parents, what's important to you? Technology is at the top of the list. So to say that we want to get rid of technology is
pandemic. Okay, how did?
But you said most parents don't agree with you. Most parents agree with you. They don't. I would argue.
They agree with us that the kids are spending way too much time on technology. They agree with us that they're addicted.
So do I.
That they did not learn during the pandemic. It exposed the fact that that's not a good way to learn.
The technology has created a self-licking ice cream cone because the technology has ushered in ADD, depression, anxiety, sleep disruption, addiction.
I don't disagree with any of that.
We cannot control what happens at home.
Okay, all right, okay. You're 100% right. You're 100% right. 100% right. Okay, great. So we know. Okay, good. I love this. At least you're home. So, but you're right. Okay, but it still doesn't change the fact that parents want technology, and when you say we want to get rid of technology, they're going to say, are you crazy? I go back to, if you want to change the schools, you've got to change the mindset of parents, and if you're going to change the mindset of parents, you got to start being realistic, in my opinion.
So you go to the classroom and you find out that a fourth grader has a little laptop. Teacher's walking around in, I think this was Klein ISD. She's walking around and the child's watching pornography.
I don't disagree with you. I'm telling you, you're right.
So think, how old is your daughter or son?
16.
Okay. So a high school, there's going to be a different level. My friend taught in.
No, my daughter had a Chromebook when she was in elementary school.
Because our private school did it too, because they're trying to copy. Oh, this looks like you're saying. Yes, it looks so fancy, and they can put that on there. Yeah, they started bringing in all the smart boards and stuff. But if you look at the progress of what the kids are actually scoring, have you looked at how many third graders can't even read? And they have all this technology. Think about it. They've had it for the last 3 years. So if they're in third grade now, they should be like.
Well, I can tell you definitively one thing they can't do is spell, because the computer does it for them. So I see they don't have cursive handwriting. I see these. You're right. But I'm.
One parent at a time. We're not looking for. It's not like this is going to make a sweeping changes across the
We're talking politics, though.
We educate parents on what the technology does, and they agree with us. They understand. So they're on board with us. So I'm not saying that they all understand that, but once we tell them, then they know.
And the government sets the tone for what parents do. I mean, really, we set the stage. Well, and again, but you're an engaged parent, but for parents who are not engaged. And the other thing is that the educational impact of the computers, which we've already touched on, but we have an obligation to do no harm. We're creating a humanitarian effort, and we're just suggesting to the schools that they remove the devices from K through 5. And we have school districts who are making local policy, and that because it's all of our schools are underfunded. They're all in a fiscal crisis themselves right now, all of them. And it's because of all the unfunded mandates. Technology is not sustainable. You have to replace Richardson ISD $10 million for K through 5 every 3 years. I mean, do the taxpayers want to pay for that? No. There's no return. And the other thing is the addiction and the mental health issues that come with it. There's no advantage. And anything that they learn about technology in K through 5, that technology will have changed drastically. It's a law in Texas that we teach fourth graders how to program. We have that written in 30 minutes.
Program computers?
Yeah. I mean, the programming, I mean, it's it won't be the same by the time they graduate. So what's the point? I mean, give them the ability to analyze, to think, to write, make them both sides of their brains engage. I mean, the computer, there's and I can't remember, there are many books being written right now about the damage of this.
Again, you're right. I don't disagree with anything you guys are saying about that when it comes to
Courageous. We just have to be bold. We cannot harm these children anymore. Our children. We can't do it. We have to do what's right for them.
Okay, so
Return on the investment.
this is a
To the cost.
this is a political convention. We're talking politics, and so you can't cop out and say, "Oh, one person at a time." No, we're talking big picture politics. So, what are we going to do to really change Texas education? Honestly, guys, I mean,
Get back to tried and true. Get back to basics. Get back to what works. We know what that is.
yeah, but you're battling the TEA. You're battling all of these.
The TEA.
I agree with that, but golly, okay.
An audit.
Start with
an
the TEA. So then you shine a light on the financials. So you look at the contracts, the memorandums of understanding, the data sharing agreements. So they're setting up state longitudinal data systems. Texas has mined more student data than any other state. Education is the most data mineable industry to date. Think about every click, everything a child does can be tracked. So that's all going through the TEA. So we just need to shine a light on it. If everyone knows that this is happening, then they start asking, why did we confirm this guy? I mean, Senator Huffine sat there and gave him a glowing confirmation. And all those people on the Senate confirmation hearing for Mike Morath said, yay, he's wonderful.
And look at our state of our schools. Okay, so if he's in charge of our schools and they're just as bad as can be, I mean, why would we not say fire the guy and get somebody else? But you ask also, I might have lost my train of thought about, funding. So if you expect what you want in the school, that's what gets funded. So if you want to fix the discipline, see, right now they get punished if they expel the child. I was assistant principal too. So if you put, the child on this list, your school doesn't get this high of accountability rating. So it's making people, I mean, you got criminals running around these high schools. I mean, it's bad shape. So you make them teacher education. I mean, we got a whole bunch of young teachers. I mean, A&M, look at I went to A&M, the curriculum, I mean, they don't even know how to write lesson plans now. When you go and visit classrooms, the teachers are like, yes.
So a bill that passed last session was House Bill 1605, and it was a technology bill. And the Republicans all voted for it. And $2.44 billion Amplify. And it set up a new agency within the TEA, so we grew the government exponentially. And then we know the people who were in the room testifying for it are the benefactors of it. They are getting that contract. We know way more. Well, Dick Weekly wrote the bill to cover up. No, Dick Weekly.
You're saying Brad Buckley, you're saying Dick Weekly.
Dick Weekly wrote it. So,
Okay, all right.
He's the author.
Buckley is the legislator.
The exact same bill was filed by both heads of Senate and Ed, and we went to Dick Weekly. I'll just let the cat out of the bag. We went to Dick Weekly and complained about Amplify being purchased on a no-bid contract. And so the next thing we know, and I knew it was going to happen, Dick goes and talks to Morath, and the next thing you know, oh, that's not a no-bid contract, and the next thing you know, here comes the bill running through the legislation to pay for Amplify. I mean, and none of the teachers want Amplify. Well, Margaret Spellings is one of them.
Margaret Spellings owns Amplify.
She's on the board.
Who owns Amplify?
What's her name? Steve Jobs' widow. Yeah, I mean why are we funding that? And they're opening an office in Austin, and it's just the biggest grift. If the taxpayers knew all the grift that was going on through the Texas Education Agency, we could fix it by just saying no more grifting. I mean,
I thought see what I hear. Okay, then there's HIS. Oh yeah.
Were you there when they were talking about DOI, the Districts of Innovation?
No.
Okay. Well, that came in through House Bill 1842, 84th legislature, but that's the same bill that had the Houston ISD, the takeover. Yeah. No, that was 1842, and then 1882 But yeah. So, but districts of innovation, that's how our school districts are they're getting around. Mary can talk a little bit more about that. But they're using DOI. So this came in through a bill. So we need to repeal that bill because the districts are using it in a way that wasn't intended for exemptions in order to get around putting the parents on like the SHAC, the Student Health Advisory. You can talk a little more about that. Because
anything that a school district doesn't want to do, each year they just write it up that we're going to use that in our district of innovation, and they submit it. And I'm always like, okay, I'm going to reach out to TEA and make sure that doesn't get through. It's just rubber stamped. I mean, what I said in there, they just rubber stamp it, send it back. What do you want? I mean, we had a school district say they wanted to be able to trespass parents for 3 years because they would use the superintendent's name in the school board meeting. They would call out the superintendent by name, and so they trespassed them. You can't come back to the meeting. And then they decided 1 year was not enough, so they wrote to TEA and said, in our district of innovation, we want the right to trespass for 3 years, and he signed it. The governor, TEA, he might as well be the governor. He has the most power. Mike Morath just signs it. You don't want SHAC, they sign it. You don't want to have a certified teacher to teach anything, they just sign it. I mean, and it's embedded. It's the whole thing. The people who want vouchers, they're angry at what's happened in the public school, and they want to burn the school building down. The building that needs to be burned down is the stinking TEA.
Okay, you don't like inflammatory talk. I don't think that those who are for vouchers want to burn the school buildings down. I simply think, okay, but there's some of you guys that are probably wacko too, right? I mean, we all have wackos on all of our side, right? But my point, okay, but that's kind of what you're saying. I mean, they want to burn the school buildings down. In reality, they want to find a method of escape for the kids that want to get out. Because frankly, a lot of the kids and a lot of the parents love their school. I mean, they've got these great athletic programs, and we do put out some great athletes. They're dumb as bricks, but they're really good athletes. So, I mean, there's some things that, and the music and the fine arts and stuff like that. I mean, goodness gracious. I mean, so they've got all of these things going for them, but there's a lot of parents who can't afford it, that would like to be in a private school, but they can't do it. So that's what because I have been a voucher person, and so that it's never been about burning down school buildings.
A lot of, and I respect that you may not be, but there are a lot of people who they don't even want vouchers.
Okay, but let's not. Okay, but this is why the debate goes nowhere, because we start painting people with these broad brushes and basically demonizing them. Okay, I think that most of the people that I have been around, and by the way, I've run State Board of Education races ran one against George Bush. He was trying to put Nancy Neal in. I was running Judy Strickland's race. Got Don McElroy put in. That was one of my candidates. So I understand the State Board of Education better than you may think. And all of those, and Dr. Leininger, by the way, he was funding our campaigns. He was the donor. And so the fact of the matter is, I don't see Dr. Leininger foaming at the mouth to get to burn buildings down. What I do see, and this has always been my point of view, and I'll admit, maybe I'm naive. Is that okay to be naive? Sure. And so maybe I am. And if I am, you can open my eyes. You can show me. I can meet those people and have them tell me. But otherwise, I think that I don't think you guys are foaming at the mouth. I don't think you guys are unreasonable. And I bet you've been characterized that way.
Sure.
Okay. So this is why I really think that we've got to come up with a solution for our schools. But again, as a Christian, I also look at the end game. I look at the Church of Smyrna and the Church of Laodicea, and I look at all of the churches that ultimately, I mean, we know what the end looks like, and I honestly don't care what my daughter becomes. I don't care if she's a housewife for her entire life. If she does everything by to and for the Lord, that's all I care about. And I want to say I care more about the spiritual condition of kids than I do about whether or not they go to some some university.
Well, and I certainly, that has been our position. That's why we say, save one child at a time from the school and change one heart. It's interesting because I've struggled a lot with the dynamics that have gone on in the party. And I went to visit my priest. I'm Anglican. I'm not Catholic, but I'm Anglican. And I was talking to him about some of the things that I was observing, and I was asking him, what was our obligation to educate the children? And I wanted to know, why did,
spiritually speaking,
yes, but also mentally, with an academic. And why did all of the churches abandon? Like, I was really challenging him that the church has vacated. I wouldn't say my church has, but I said, why has the church stopped doing that? The church needs to come back around the parents and guide the parents about this education. And we had an excellent conversation. He was so wise. And at the end of it, he said to me, Mary, God calls us to be merciful. And the most merciful thing we do is educate people and educate children, because if children are not educated, they are slaves. And the real freedom comes from the ability to be able to be educated. If you can read the Bible, and spiritual freedom.
Good point.
And if you can read, you can read history. Yeah. If you can't do that, when he said to me, Jesus calls us to be merciful, and he doesn't call us to be merciful for just some of the children. He calls us to be merciful for all. And I know that sounds like a Democratic pleading.
No, that does not sound like a Democratic plea.
Yeah. Well, the Democrats, the Democrats,
they don't have to.
Okay.
They have not cornered the market on love.
Well, thank you.
Because what they do is not love.
So I just think that that as a people, that we have an obligation not to harm the kids. And right now we are harming kids. They're getting addicted to drugs. They're getting addicted to pornography.
Well, they're not being educated.
And they're not being educated. And they're not going to be educated as long as there's pornography in front of them. Because you know what? Once they see that, they can't refocus. And as long as they're on the internet in the school systems, our state knows that our internet connections are not safe.
Can I just ask, do y'all have stats on how many households in America or Texas don't have internet?
No, and I haven't investigated, because our goal is not, I don't believe.
My point is, I think it's probably very low.
It's subsidized.
Yes, they're paying for it in our school district.
We get free hotspots. They've got satellites over Ector County. So they have access.
Yeah, so I don't care where you get the access. I mean,
Yeah, but the parents good parents who are aware, and I talk more and more, I encounter parents who say, our children are not even watching television. We do not even allow television in our home. And they don't let their child have the iPhone. They have learned from their maybe older sister that, the 4-month-old gets the phone, and then every time they see the phone, they want the phone. It is addictive. I mean, as you said, all of us, it is very addictive. And it's and if you talk to the doctors, and we've read a lot of the Journal of American Medicine and a lot of the psychiatric reviews, it is changing the way the brain operates, and it is changing the stimulus in the brain, and they're immediately addicted, and they will be addicts most of the time for the rest of their life with some form or another, because that's the part of the brain that is being developed. And so we cannot control what happens in a home, but for us to collect tax dollars from every citizen in the state and use those tax dollars to literally do harm to children is a humanitarian crisis, and the state must stop it.
Okay, so in fairness, at the schools that I work with, the Christian schools, there are things that the kids cannot access on their computers, and so there are. I mean, I've got I have the program on my computer where a buddy of mine, I see what he sees. If there's anything up. Covenant Eyes. Yeah, I've got Covenant Eyes. We've also got we've got Bark. We've got all of these things. But you know what? As good as those things are, sometimes things slip through. So
they know how to bypass that too. They know how to hack, and they know how to bypass, because we have them in the schools. Yeah. They have firewalls in the schools, but they're getting around them.
Yeah, and so I mean, but for the most part, those schools that I work with, I will tell you, they do a pretty good job. Not perfect. So, but I just think that
Private schools, their internet is provided by an internal Wi-Fi, and in the state schools, the education service centers provide 98% of the schools with their internet, and that is one of the ways that the state is able to collect the data, and it is not secure. And we were at the State Board of Education when Melody Parrish, the director of technology, testified that it's not child internet protection safe at all. It does not follow federal code or local code on protecting children. So this.
She said that. She said this keeps me awake at night, knowing that their data is not safe.
So, I mean, really, the state needs to lead on this and not follow. And as a state, we're following in everything with education. And when somebody points out to you an area where you can lead, you need to do it.
All right, so we've started a conversation. We have not even brushed the surface, I think. And I'm going to find.
So we can get together anytime you want to. And
Perfect.
And Lynn and I do
on the show, and let's get someone who yeah, it is, and this is such a hot button issue for this party.
We go to grassroots groups across Texas. We went to Marianne's group in Houston. Every time we speak, people are craving what we're saying. Yeah. If they're not on the take and they're not paid to think another way, then they hear exactly what we're saying.
Okay, or they're misled, right? Okay, so some of us are not on the take, and some of us are okay.
That's why you're having this conversation, because you're not on the take.
Exactly. I'm really not.
You can hear me. That's why we're talking.
Yeah.
What?
Because I'm not
okay. Well,
I think y'all have your ladders on the wrong wall.
All right. Well, but this is these conversations. But there's two sides. There's several. There. All right. So therein lies the issue, and we've got a lot more to talk about I'm gonna invite you come to the studio, and we'll have those who can speak intelligently, who don't foam at the mouth, and who don't throw assaults at you guys. If y'all will agree, I know you won't do that to them, and so. No, I do. Because look, we can't have.
We have to talk about the chaplain bill. We haven't talked about that either.
Chaplain bill.
That's a big one that I think you and I, we will.
I just need to see where we are. Go ahead.
Bringing the chaplains in the schools.
Yes.
Along the lines of what you were talking about with that.
Oh yeah.
Resolution that was introducing Bible and faith.
Right. Yeah, we're good. We're good.
People don't realize, because they don't have kids in the school. My kids had 40 pages of Christianity and 40 pages.
Sorry, they didn't hear anything you said because the mic was over here. Let's start again. Chaplains in school.
Chaplains in school. Well, so table that for a second. But on the resolution that you talked about in the room was about putting Bible lessons in the classroom.
It was saying that the TEA will require instruction on the Bible.
Yes. Okay. So as believers, we struggle with agreeing different denominations, different translations. That's kind of what you were saying. Yeah. But also with the what did I just say before that? I lost my train. No, but it was really important. But anyway, but the chaplain bill. Yeah, it'll come back. So the chaplain bill. So that opens the door for not just our faith, other faiths. I mean, we're talking Wiccan and rabbis or whatever, Islamic, Christian. Yeah, I know. I was saying 40. My kids, 40 pages of Christianity, 40 pages of Islam, but it distorted both. So it was saying Paul was a misogynist, and then in the Islam it was saying women have equal footing. In some countries, that's not true. So Paul was not a misogynist. So it's like they get both wrong. They get the Bible wrong and the Quran wrong. So that was in the school. So our kids are learning in world religion and world history. They do learn about religion from an historical perspective, but also it's slanted. So that opens up a whole can of worms. I sent my kids to school to learn to read, write, know math, history, science. I didn't send them to learn about the Bible. That's my job at home. And do we really trust the government to do that? No. It's such. I mean, we're supposed to propose, not impose our faith. Right. Okay? I mean.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is a hard. This is a hard convention because normally we would certainly be excited to hear people say, you know, we need to get God back in the center of our lives. But you know what? And they're saying get it back in school. Can I just tell you, it will do no good if it's open in the school and never opened at home. The Bible has to be opened at home first. A child has to see the parent every day reading that Bible. I know this because I would get up in the morning and do my Bible study before my child would wake up so that I didn't spend time distracted from him. And, you know, he didn't ever see me do that because I got up at 4 o'clock so I could do that. And he never knew I did that. He knew that I prayed, and he knew that we went to church, and he knew that those were the guidelines for my life. But he never saw the habit. And that's what the kids need to see, not somebody reading from a script in a classroom. So, you know, I don't know what the answer is to that, but we need to go be talking to our churches and tell our churches to get the families. And we need to talk about false teachings too.
Absolutely, and that's what you'll get in a public school. So, chaplains in schools.
Oh, that was a vendor bill. People don't realize what was going on behind the scenes, but yeah, I mean, well, and they had a guy, Rocky Malloy, he was being paraded around the Capitol, and he has a social emotional learning company too for curriculum. So he was pushing the chaplain bill, and I found a video on YouTube, and it was talking about finally this is the first time ever we're going to get government dollars. Think about that. And the slippery slope that I mentioned about, okay, well, it opens the door for we always think about our own faith, and we think about taking even the school choice dollars to our own Christian school. Well, those dollars, do we want them going to all these other faiths? I think that is a major can of worms.
So George Buarna, I don't know if you're familiar with, okay. So I read his stuff, and it talked about how only 10% of people who call themselves Christians are really biblical Christians. Right. And then you look at how many pastors, and it was down like only 37%. Exactly. It's very low. And so my concern is I don't want, you know, all these false teachers or people in these churches, you know, teaching what they think is the Bible, because I think it's more dangerous than anyway. That was a big
and I think so in defense of the committee, and I just want to say, I mean, ultimately what they were trying to simply do is say that you cannot restrict a teacher from praying, from exercising their faith, and that's ultimately what they were doing. But I think they put that in thinking that it was going to, you know, and I saw what they were trying to do, but I think we all did. It wasn't malicious. I just think,
no.
I just don't think they thought it all the way. Yeah, unintended consequences.
I think that often when people get together, and even in the Capitol when they're writing these laws, they tend to forget that the conservative faction of the state may not always have power and control. And they write so many of these laws and bills that give one person the authority, and with one election, a switch could be flipped, and everything that we have tried so hard to protect our children from could be right back in there. And so we really need to be very careful, and our schools need to go back to just being academic centers. And, you know, if we want to educate somebody, then educate the parent. If the school feels that they need to be doing these things that the parent's not doing, they need to educate the parent.
Yeah, but again, I think it's a fool's errand to say that we're going to be able to fix Texas schools. That's my opinion at this point. And I think that the reality, and the reason I like vouchers is because it gives a way of escape for the few kids that actually want to get out of there. And because I think a lot of people don't realize how bad the public schools are. That's my opinion. Those who love the school.
Shining a light on it, and it's almost like so much that you start to wonder, you know, because my friends that are still teaching, they're like, Marianne, we don't see like purple-haired crazy people walking up and down the hall. I mean, I know there's some out there, but it's almost like exaggerated on purpose. And like I'm saying, if they designed the discipline system to be unworkable and everything. I mean, they have purposely, they want this to fail. And so you guys, everybody else needs to be thinking, what are they really after? After the pandemic, doesn't everybody kind of question what the government is doing when they lie to us so much? I mean, that's the biggest red flag right there.
Of course, but okay, so I think you somewhat respect the point of view that I'm bringing, but you don't agree with it, and you see the fault of. You see danger. I get that, and I look at it as I think that you guys are best of intentions, but I don't think you're going to have any real impact. Okay, I'm just saying in the grand scheme of things, I think kill vouchers.
You don't have any impact.
Okay, you kill. Okay, no, that's not what I'm saying. I'm talking about improving schools. I'm talking about improving schools. Killing vouchers doesn't improve schools.
While we're doing that, we're also speaking about the solutions. We're speaking, and we've got a big microphone. So yeah, I mean, it's worth trying. It's worth trying.
Okay, but again, I look at it and say, okay, great. Yeah, I'll even advocate with you. I'll even fight with you. But knowing that I think this is an uphill climb, I don't think it's going to make a difference. That's why I look at the voucher thing as, okay, again, not a lot of kids are going to take advantage of something like that because I think most kids like their schools. They like their football programs. They like their athletic, and so they don't look at it in the same way that you guys do.
We're not respecting the constitutional republic when we do that.
We do what?
When we just say we're going to pass this and we're going to solve the problem for a few kids, that is not respecting the constitutional representative form of government.
Well, just because only a few kids will take advantage of it doesn't mean that it's not a
expand school. When you expand tax-funded school,
again. Okay.
Local control, and at some point in this picture that we're looking at, we have got to look at the growing government, the growing state government that is coming down on the local schools. And even when we don't like what our local districts are doing, if we don't protect local authority and self-representation, we will not have what we covet, which is the representative form of government.
What I think is naive about your point is that you're saying it as though this will somehow that the school government is not growing exponentially every single day. And so you think if you're saying that vouchers is going to expand government more than school government is already expanding beyond out of control, I think that's a naive position.
I'm saying that if we don't address the data that's being collected on our children.
Okay, I don't disagree. Like I said, we agreed on that.
As long as we're having a conversation about the voucher, the other things don't get discussed.
That is true.
I don't agree with that.
No, so that's all. It sucks all the energy out of the room. Besides that Reader Act, which was the bill about the books that happened in the legislature. Besides that, it was vouchers and the Reader Act. That's what sucked all the energy. So the left.
You want the energy focused on the data mining and stuff like that.
Focus on what the kids are learning, how they're learning, who's profiting. Do an audit of the TEA, eliminate remove the technology, and focus on. If we look at that, then you would follow the money and find the truth.
Okay, but okay, let's say everything you say is true and happens. How much faith do you have that the government is going to take action and hold accountable and put those people in jail that should go to jail, all of these things? How much faith do you actually believe will happen?
I see a groundswell of legislators who are funded by Pale Horse and the special interest.
The legislature is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the judicial branch. The judicial branch doesn't give a flip. We had one of the biggest bailouts in American history not too long ago, and how many bankers went to jail? One out of that entire thing. And we had all of these, we had legislatures. It did it made exactly. So that's what I'm saying.
Well, but the court of public opinion does work. I mean, what's happening with that story with Brett Shipp and the charter school fleecing the taxpayers, sending the money to Colorado, that's been shared over 100,000 times. So people are paying attention, and the heat is on. Now you've got the evidence that they're doing that.
Because I got to tell you that
Asking for his head.
absolutely, and that's great.
I want them to ask for Murat's head.
That's one little thing. That's one little instance.
I agree with your point. Because Alex Newman also talks about, reforming the schools. Is it too late? And it's a big question mark. It's very hard to see that light at the end of the tunnel. But anyway, so I get your point, and I think we've all talked about, if we had kids, they would not. And the kids it's not going to be fixed fast. Look how many decades it took. So we understand what you're talking about, but we also understand the kids
it's like
that
the
are
gospel. So you can't share Jesus on a billboard, right? It's not like you can put it on the highway and everyone's like, oh, geez, I found Jesus. It's a relationship. It's one conversation at a time. It's through relationships. So that's our
Okay, but again, people don't come to
somewhere.
But arguably, and I think you'll agree with me on this, people don't come to know Christ because I've shared it with them. They come to know Christ because the Holy Spirit did something in their life, and I happen to be a part of that miracle that occurred in front of me. So I can't.
That's about
I think it's probably
But my point is that it is through the hand. We have to be the hands and feet. It's through relationships.
Well, the Bible also says that the humble will shame the wise, right? And that the small. I mean, God. That's what I love about our faith, and that's what I love about our God is He doesn't do things through political action, through this massive work that we're doing. I think if something's going to change, it's going to be some imperceptible thing that we haven't even thought of. And if God ordains something to happen, I think it will happen no matter what we say. Yeah, I pray it will. I will pray with you.
Yeah, we pray, and I know Senator Parker is my senator, and often when I speak with Senator Parker, I ask him, will you be the man who will stand up? Because it is going to take a politician along the way to be willing to risk possibly his status, political status, or his power to stand up and say, we have to do the right thing for the children in the state of Texas.
But then you have, but then again, my only thought about that is, okay, so he dies on his sword. He falls on his sword, he dies, and he makes no good. Nothing good changes. Okay, so let me give you an example. Bob Hall is my state senator, the greatest state senator in the state of Texas today. And do you know what? He runs against walls most of the time. People don't pay attention. They don't respect him, but goodness knows he's representing his district. He come hell or high water, right? And that's what I like about Bob Hall. He doesn't care. The problem is that ultimately
29 more that don't care.
Yeah, and so I go back to the plan of God. And so what is our calling is to do everything by, to, and for the Lord. And so I don't think our public schools is where our nation is going to be free. I think, again, I have a little fatalistic view of America, and I don't see us. I think it's not. My home is not here. It's in heaven. So I recognize, and I told my daughter this, and I tell her this. I said, I would rather you die for your faith, is standing up for your faith. That would make me more proud than anything you could ever do, because I do think we live in a society that is growing more and more against those of us of faith who know Christ as our Savior, and so we are the enemy. We become the enemy, and we may end up being the Church of Smyrna. And if so, are we ready to die for our faith? And I think we are. And so that's what's inspiring. That's what gives me hope that maybe we can make a difference.
I also think that we have to look at books like Nehemiah, and we have to look at books like at Esther, and we have to see, and people often say, because Lynn and I have been known to be bombastic, and I said, Jesus flipped over the taxpayers' table. So when I see this and it's wrong, I can't turn my eye because it's wrong, and I have to let other people know. Hopefully, by my standing up for what is right, other people will be emboldened and get courage to stand up and see if they can call out the misappropriation of what is. I mean, our money is not even ours. I mean, it's fake. Exactly. And so, I think that there's a lot of different ways, and God calls us all to a lot of different missions through this. And at the end of the day, and it was one of the things at the Catholic Church. So we were a little bit miffed that and this is not an interview anymore, by the way. This is just us talking, and you're going to.
This is live. This is hey, this is it. This is my viewers are used to this. Oh yeah, my viewers are used to this. This is the way it works.
So at the end of the day, you know, I'm glad that I know that now. At the end of the day, you know, God is going to call us all to a little different way of waking up people. And one of the things that we have seen that has really alarmed us when we talk about our government, and one of the reasons that we've honed in on the technology, aside from the medical piece of it, is that there are many, many people who are pushing the ESG, the emotional credit score, social credit scores, and they're doing it with our children already. And they're doing it with the technology and these emotional questions that they ask in the school district. So if we don't do something to get those kids off a device, we literally are putting them into a planned scaled economy where they are not free. They have no choices. And I spoke to a teacher in San Antonio, and she used to teach CTE, and she and one of the things that she is my translator.
Career tech.
Career tech. One of the things that I pushed back on was that we had too much career tech, and then she said to me, "Oh no, you're exactly right." She said they are asking us, because I have a seventh grader that's a very good friend. I don't know that many kids in school. And in Florida, they were making her in 7th grade pick a career in 7th grade. And I was like, when my son was in college, I mean, he was a senior graduating from college going, I don't know what I want to be yet. And that's okay. And so here they are. And she said, no, they are defining in kindergarten. She said her superintendent said, no, we are going to define in kindergarten. We start in kindergarten picking what their path in life will be. And when I heard that, I want the technology gone, because that is how they're doing it. That is how they're creating and pigeonholing these children. And again, as my priest said, that is not freedom, and that is not merciful.
No, I agree. And so this has been a great conversation. I hope you guys feel good about our conversation. And I'm looking forward to having you again in studio, and we can bring someone else in who can speak intelligently on the voucher side. And hopefully, I would love for us to all figure this out.
Yeah, I would love for us to lock the doors. I mean, I think they need to bolt the doors.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Bolt the doors in the Capitol, and not let anybody out until they come up with solutions without growing any of the money, because we're spending plenty of money. We should be getting a whole lot more. It's super funny. So we came here, and I handed you our literature. You know, we want two things. We want an audit of the TEA, an external fiscal audit of the TEA. We think that we need to uncover where the Robin Hood money is going and where all this other money is going. Okay. And then we want less technology. We want to repeal House Bill 1605. Okay. And both of those resolutions were passed through many Senate districts, but the committee left them on the floor. And we knew that they would. We totally knew that they would, but here's the deal. If we're here and we're talking to everybody that we encounter and have this type of dialogue, and we won't have this depth, then our language gets inside the echo chamber. And once we get our language inside the echo chamber, it starts reverberating. And that's how things happen in Austin, is you have to get the language inside the echo chamber, because that's where they all live. And typically, your paid lobbyist and TPPF, they're the ones who put the language inside the echo chamber. Yeah.
Marianne, Lynn, thank you guys so much for being with me today and for updating me on this. So we'll be in touch. Okay. All right. Thank y'all very much. Thank you very much. Well, so I want to just thank them for what they brought to the table, and that was important. As you know, I mean, I like controversial issues. I like for people to talk about things that people aren't talking about. And unfortunately, here at the convention, this issue of vouchers and school choice and all of that is such a hot button issue. I'm a voucher guy, as I've talked about. I get what they're saying, but they think I'm crazy. I think they're a little crazy. We're all a little crazy, but we are all looking and driving in the same direction. And that's what's important. What are we trying to do? We're trying to make Texas education better. So that's a good conversation for today. I'm glad to have you with me today. And so tomorrow morning I'll give a little bit of an update on some of the things that happen in the committee rooms. James Waslick was supposed to be with me today. He'll probably be with me tomorrow. It does look like Brian Harrison is going to be joining me as well this week. So we'll talk about a new proposal that he is bringing up. It's pretty cool. I think you'll like it a lot. I do. So anyway, I'm glad to have you with me today. We look forward to seeing you tomorrow.